Good day, everybody. It's Andrew here, and welcome back to my channel. We've got some big updates for seniors regarding the next stimulus package, stimulus checks for seniors being included in that package, what Joe Manchin just said because he had a meeting with President Biden last night, and what's going on with the relationship between Mitch McConnell and President Biden, which seems to be heading in the right direction, which does bode well for the next stimulus package. So let's discuss the details, but before we jump into it, do me a quick favor, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and share this channel with anyone who you think might find this helpful. This is a community for seniors, and my job here is to be a voice for you to make sure President Biden keeps his word to increase Social Security benefits, increase SSI and SSDI, and even potentially do a stimulus check for seniors in this next stimulus package. Now, all of these things are things that President Biden promised on the campaign trail, so our job here is to keep him to his word. So thank you for being a part of this community, and if you really want to support my work, subscribe to my second channel. The link to that is going to be in the comments of this video, and on that channel, I'm going to be giving away stimulus checks just as a thank you for supporting my work. We're going to have some updates as well, but it's mostly going to be more of a fun channel where I'm going to be on camera playing games like bingo and casino games. There's going to be a chat room so you can chat with me and chat with the community. Just more of a fun community to almost forget about the serious things we talk about on this channel. But with that said, thank you for your support, and the link to that is going to be in the comments of this video. Now, before we jump into stimulus and what's going on with stimulus checks for seniors, let's do a quick update on daily trending news. Now, today it looks like leaders in the House and the Senate are going to hold a moment of silence for the over 800,000 Americans who have passed away from COVID-19. Now, Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and McCarthy, they're going to hold this moment of silence this afternoon just to pay their respects. So to everyone who's been affected by this pandemic, our thoughts go out to you and your friends and family who have been affected. Now, it looks like Nancy Pelosi is going to run again for Speaker of the House in 2022. Now, this is huge news because, first of all, she has been huge when it comes to trying to increase Social Security benefits and approving the first 3 stimulus checks. So there was a lot of speculation as to whether or not she was going to run, and if she didn't, who would take her place? Would it be someone that was just as liberal as Pelosi, or potentially even more liberal, who would keep fighting to increase Social Security benefits? Or would it be someone a little more conservative that would make things more difficult when it comes to increasing benefits? Now, this is really important because 2022 is supposed to be the year where President Biden really pushes to increase Social Security benefits. Of course, at the beginning of 2021, they had to focus on the American Rescue Plan to get that third stimulus check out and address the economy and things people were dealing with as the economy reopened and we try and get out of this pandemic. Of course, then they focused on the physical stimulus plan to get that done. So that kept them busy, but now we expect them to fully focus on Social Security benefits next year. And with Nancy Pelosi being one of the biggest advocates when it comes to Social Security benefits being increased, her running once again for Speaker of the House actually bodes well for Social Security benefits. So let me know in the comments, folks. Are you happy that Nancy Pelosi is running again? Do you think she is good or bad for the things we talk about on this channel? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, really quick, I want to talk about a series I've been covering which shows the best and worst states to retire in the United States. And we started with 25 and 22 as far as the 22nd worst state to retire in this country is Mississippi. And basically the reason for this is, one, there's a lot of crime, and secondly, there's not very good healthcare systems in place. It is ranked one of the worst states for healthcare with very few physicians and dentists to serve its population. There's also a low life expectancy for some reason for people who live in Mississippi. So let me know in the comments if you're from Mississippi. Do you agree with this? Do you think it's actually a bad place to retire? Or do you disagree? And let me know why if you do. But that is the 22nd worst state to retire in when it comes to moneywise.com. Okay, so let's talk about the next stimulus package and the fact that Bernie Sanders is trying to include a stimulus check for seniors in this next stimulus package. Of course, he's pushing for a $1,000 check. Some groups want it to be as large as $2,000, and President Biden said it could be as small as $800. Now, of course, the main people here that are dealing with negotiations are Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, and Joe Manchin. Now, a couple of things are getting worse when it comes to Joe Manchin as inflation continues to get worse, and it seems like he's digging in when it comes to waiting to approving that next stimulus package. Now, he just met with President Biden last night, and we'll talk about that meeting in just a minute, but let's quickly talk about Mitch McConnell. Now, when President Biden first won the election in 2020, we talked about the fact that Mitch McConnell and President Biden have a long history of working together, getting deals done, and compromising to meeting in the middle to make sure things get done in a bipartisan fashion. Now, back when Joe Biden was in the Senate and when he was vice president, he worked together with Mitch McConnell really closely, and it was even reported that when Joe Biden was vice president and Mitch McConnell wanted to get a deal done, he would say, put Joe Biden on the phone. Now, this led us to believe that with Joe Biden becoming president and Mitch McConnell being the minority leader in the House, this would bode well when it comes to getting more stimulus done in the future and increasing Social Security benefits as well. Now, it's been a little choppy to begin with. We haven't really seen a lot of bipartisan work. They did do the physical infrastructure plan in a bipartisan way, and it looks like now Mitch McConnell is working with President Biden to raise the debt ceiling in a kind of half bipartisan way. But there's more and more signs showing that Mitch McConnell is warming up to President Biden and is more agreeable to getting things done with Democrats. Now, Mitch McConnell recently made headlines for praising President Biden for his rapid support of Kentucky after those tornadoes devastated tons of communities in his state. Now, remember, Mitch McConnell is a senator in Kentucky, and with this disaster hitting this week, he was praising President Biden for quickly addressing the issue and helping take care of those people in Kentucky as quickly and as swiftly as possible. Now, of course, this is something that's very personal to Mitch McConnell, and the fact that he took the time in a press conference to praise President Biden kind of goes a long way, and hopefully this could be an olive branch to continue to work together in the short term, right? As we're trying to get this next stimulus package done, and then we're moving forward with trying to increase Social Security benefits as well. So this relationship between Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden is something we'll continue to watch closely over the next couple of months as things develop with this next stimulus package. Now, when it comes to Joe Manchin, we've heard it before. He's upset about inflation, and he's upset about the actual cost of this next stimulus package. And he had this meeting with President Biden last night, and apparently the major issue he's trying to attack now are the monthly child tax credits for families with kids. Now, first of all, that doesn't bode well for families with kids, but second of all, that doesn't really affect seniors, and actually the monthly stimulus checks for kids really haven't been that popular. There's been about a 50% popularity when it comes to these monthly stimulus checks. So a lot of Democrats are saying, well, hey, if we're giving families these monthly checks, and they're not even that popular, only 50% of people like them compared to like 90% of people who like just broad stimulus checks, then why even keep doing them, right? They're not that popular, they're expensive. And now Joe Manchin is saying, hey, if we're going to get this stimulus package done, let's cut out those monthly checks, and it seems like that might be enough to get this stimulus package done. Now, a lot of people are saying, like Bernie Sanders, well, first of all, Bernie Sanders doesn't want to take those checks out. But secondly, some experts are saying that if they take those stimulus checks for families out, they're going to have tons of money left over, which makes it even more easy to get the stimulus check for seniors done, right? Because that's a one-time payment. It's expected to cost about $300 billion compared to the $4 trillion the monthly stimulus checks for families would cost, because that would probably end up lasting about 10 years, right? So this is what's currently going on. Joe Manchin is attacking the monthly stimulus checks for families, which bodes poorly for families, but actually bodes well when it comes to freeing up more funding to approve the stimulus checks for seniors. Now, we've got a quick clip from Joe Manchin in a short interview he held just before he's meeting with President Biden. So let's take a quick look and see what Joe Manchin said.
I'm concerned about paying down debt too, so whatever we raise, I want to make sure there's money going towards paying down debt. We have to start taking care of our debt and be responsible. And then if we don't, if we're not transparent and accurate, then where does the money come from? Do we go back in another bite and more funding, or do we just throw caution to the wind and have debt financing, which has been done by both parties for far too long.
Are you going to the White House to meet with the president?
I'm going sometime today, I believe. You know, it's either a phone call or I'm going over. I've heard both, so I'll find out when I go in. But it'll be later this afternoon or early this evening.
And are you going to tell them whether you want to do this bill now?
We're going to talk about exactly what happened on Friday with the CBO score.
So obviously Joe Manchin mainly worried about one, inflation and whether or not the new stimulus package will make inflation worse, and secondly, whether or not the stimulus package will actually be fully paid for. Now the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, actually just scored the bill when it comes to whether or not it would be paid for over the next 10 years. And quite frankly, that score came back really bad. But we'll talk about that in just a second. The main thing we're looking at now is, will Joe Manchin try and completely take out those monthly stimulus checks for families, or will he try and lower the amount, or just lower the amount of people that will actually qualify for it based off of how much money you make annually? So we'll have to wait and see. But in any case, that's going to kind of determine how much funding is left over for this $1,000 to $2,000 stimulus check that Bernie Sanders is trying to include for seniors. Now, a couple more things that are still at hand when it comes to this bill is the parliamentarian is trying to decide whether or not the bill, when it comes to lowering prescription drug prices, will be allowed to end up in this package. Now, that's a huge deal because that is one of the best things in this package for seniors that will lower prescription drug costs for everyone who's on Medicare. But now it looks like the parliamentarian is kind of trying to decide, like, hey, is this similar to something like immigration, where it's more of a policy-based rule and it shouldn't be allowed in a budget bill like budget reconciliation? Or is this something that really affects the budget and should be allowed to be in there? Now, this is a huge thing because if this doesn't make it into the bill, then stimulus checks for seniors are going to be even more important because, quite frankly, we still haven't gotten Social Security increased. We still have not gotten the stimulus check for seniors. And now if this medication bill gets taken out, that's going to be a huge blow for seniors because, quite frankly, then what is included in this bill for seniors? I mean, there's some funding for home health care. That's going to help. There's some funding for affordable housing to build more affordable housing and provide more Section 8 vouchers. That way people who are on waiting lists would qualify for affordable housing. So those things are going to help seniors. But really, it's the Medicare aspect and the stimulus check for seniors that really goes the longest way in helping those seniors in this country. So that's something to keep our eye on as well. And now with the Congressional Budget Office giving its score, basically what's happening here is Joe Manchin is upset. The Democrats are saying it's only going to cost $1.75 trillion, but really that's when you only score the bill paid for 1 to 2 years, when really what Joe Manchin is saying is, hey, these programs, although technically they're only going to be temporary, once you put them in place, they're almost impossible to get rid of, right? So he wants to say, what is this thing going to cost over the next 10 years? Because in his eyes, that is the true cost of the bill. Now, to be honest with you, when it comes to the actual funding of the bill, I mean, we have to be realistic. And really what it's going to cost over the next 10 years is really a more rational kind of way to score it, right? So although this is kind of bad news, this is currently what's going on, and the CBO said this would cost about $4 trillion over the next 10 years. Now, when you put it in perspective, over the next 10 years, we're going to spend about $10 trillion on the military. So some people would argue if we could spend $10 trillion on the military, why can't we spend $4 trillion on helping the American people? But either way, let me know your thoughts on that. And to end this video, we're going to play this clip from Fox News discussing exactly why this plan is actually expected to cost $4 trillion and what we expect the implications of that to be. So if you'd like to stick around, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's take a look, see exactly what they had to say, and I'll see you on the next video.
Biden called the CBO the gold standard of budget scoring a while back, but now they're all singing a different tune. Democrats saying it's fake. Joining me now to talk about this and some other things, we welcome Arkansas Senator John Boozman. Senator Boozman, welcome, sir. Just, I found this memo from Secretary Janet Yellen, and she says explicitly, I quoted it in the first block, explicitly that the Biden plan was always to be permanent, but that they made some things temporary in order to achieve consensus. Now, if that isn't truth-telling inadvertently, then the CBO has the story exactly right. They knew what they were doing, Senator Bozeman. They knew exactly what they were doing with these gimmicks. And basically, the CBO called them on it and got it right.
No, you're exactly right. You could go down and listen to the congressional testimony, the debate as they've talked about these things, and they've always said that they wanted to get these things permanent. As you know, the gimmick is that you have the pay for over 10 years for the entitlement that lasts only a year. So it's absolutely crazy. I think we need to give Lindsey Graham a big thanks, the ranking member on the Budget Committee. He did a great job of really pressing CBO to score this. And it's not just CBO, Larry. As you know, there's been a couple outside groups, Wharton School of Business. They came out. Theirs was very much the same thing as CBO found.
So I don't, on the floor, you got, what do you got, 2 weeks till Christmas or some such. How can these arguments from the Democrats that this scoring is fake, to use one phrase, how can it hold up? I mean, everybody knew it was the worst kept secret in town, Senator. That's what I'm saying. In other words, there are things that are legitimately up for debate. I get that, I've been in and out of that game for quite some time. But this thing, it's like the worst kept secret in Washington was these gimmicks. And the CBO just called on them. And a few years ago, Biden himself called the CBO the gold standard. I mean, I'm pressing the point because there's so much baloney. And this is one of the reasons why Joe Biden's polls are crashing, including his polls, Senator, on honesty, okay? People think this is dishonest, which it is.
Well, I think what happened was Joe Manchin said, look, I want a bill that comes in at about $1.5 trillion, around that range. And so somebody at some point said, okay, we've got to do this. And then they crafted this bill using the smoke and mirrors to get in theoretically by using the gimmicks and this and that so that they were in that range to try and get a vote out of Senator Manchin. The problem they've got is that even he has come out and said, look, this is not right. CBO is saying this. These other outside entities are scoring in the same way. And so because of that, they've got a real problem in selling to the public. I think you're exactly right. I think that's why President Biden has unprecedented low poll numbers right now.
Yeah, and I think Joe Manchin, I don't know, at least in West Virginia, has very high poll numbers because he's been a truth teller and he's been consistent.